Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting right into it here, we got a packed show lined up for you guys today. An instant classic in the Western Conference last night between the Golden State Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies. We're going to recap that entire game. What an unbelievable game that was. Possibly one of the best games so far this season. Also, we had the Orlando Magic take out the Atlanta Hawks to set up a date between the Magic and the Boston Celtics in the first round. We're going to get into everything about that game and kind of preview a little bit of that Magic-Celtics series because it could be a little bit more interesting than what first meets the eye for that series. From there, we're going to look at the we're going to take a look at the Miami Heat. We're going to preview both play-in games later tonight between the Miami Heat and Chicago Bulls, as well as the Sacramento Kings versus the Dallas Mavericks, and what will be honestly, the Western Conference is a little bit better, obviously, because it's a little bit more competitive, but both games should be fantastic in both of those games. From there, we're also going to take a look at the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets in the first round. Their first round matchup officially set after the Warriors taking out the Grizzlies last night. That obviously one of the old school rivalries from the 2015 era. We all remember the Steph Curry, James Harden rivalries. That rivalry is set to take place starting Saturday, and that will be one of the premier series of the first round as well. And then we're going to close out the show talking a little bit more about the Memphis Grizzlies as well. Do they move on from Ja Morant in the offseason? Where should the Memphis Grizzlies go if they lose on Friday night? We're going to take a look at everything in there, but yeah. But before moving any further, I'd like to take a moment to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions and comments that come in during the show. So to ensure that your question gets read on air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net for your questions. Just put your question at the top of the list so that I see it. It also really helps out the show. Again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. And I'm sorry, Anthony, for ignoring you. I do see you have been typing in the chat while I was doing my opening. The Heat are playing later tonight. And do you recommend Miami lose this game so they can stay in the lottery? Because if they win, don't they lose a draft pick to the Oklahoma City Thunder? Yes, that is true. I don't know if I recommend them to lose this game just because it is a play-in tournament game, and honestly, a lot of playoff games these days still bring in a lot of revenue. So I don't know if it's 100% a lose this game, especially in the Eric Spoelstra era, Pat Riley era. I don't think that's ever been a thing. But I don't know. It's something definitely to look at, and we'll look at it in the third segment of our show later on. But getting right into it here, yeah, we had possibly one of the games of the season last night between the Golden State Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies. If you didn't catch it on live TV, no worries. It was we'll recap it here right now. It was absolutely an unbelievable game. The Memphis Grizzlies starting out hot, jumping out to an early 5-point lead in the first opening minutes of the first quarter. And then from there, it was pretty much all Warriors, going on a 26-7 run to close the first quarter. And then in the second quarter, it was just more of the same story. Steph Curry putting on a barrage of threes. Jimmy Butler continuing to grow into playoff Jimmy form. It was overall just Draymond Green. It was their defense, if anything, that was being so tenacious on that end of the ball. The Memphis Grizzlies just couldn't spark any offense all game. That's what it felt like. They could not get their offense going. They could not. Jaren Jackson Jr. having issues in the paint with Quentin Post or Kevon Looney or Draymond Green. Brandon Podziemski giving Ja Morant problems in the guard area. In general, it was just the Warriors were forcing so many turnovers. I believe they finished with 13 steals in this game. The story of the first half was just Warriors defense and being able to light it up from the outside, and they really, really did that in this game. But moving on into the second half, I believe it was a 13-point game going into halftime, and in the second half, it was a little bit of a different story, really. The Grizzlies coming out a little bit hotter, closing the distance, making it a 10-point game until Ja Morant left the game. He got injured, twisted his ankle on the ground, falling. I believe he fell on Draymond Green's ankle after a fall-away shot. Ended up shooting the free throw so he could return to the game, which he eventually did in the fourth quarter. But before he did, it was the Desmond Bane show. Desmond Bane finishing with 30 points in this game, and without Ja Morant in the lineup, he was the leading force for the Memphis Grizzlies as they continued to make this game closer and closer going into the fourth. In the fourth quarter, it was more of a 1-point game, much closer, going back and forth between both teams. Zach Edey in this one being a driving force for the Grizzlies in the interior, finishing with 14 points, 17 rebounds. He played a phenomenal game and probably one of his premier performances as a rookie this season. We haven't really seen a whole lot or heard a lot about Zach Edey this season with Jaren Jackson Jr. starting over him. But in this game, it was the Grizzlies were using Zach Edey so much down the stretch, putting a lot of confidence in him, taking late free throws in this one. He was absolutely a driving force in this game in keeping it close and making it so as interesting as it was down the stretch. But fast forwarding a little bit farther down the line I believe it was. Well, before I get there, the Warriors really just played an unbelievable game down the stretch here, just managing the clock. That is the first thing I want to say. With 13 seconds to go, they held a 3-point lead. Memphis Grizzlies holding a timeout in their back pocket. The Warriors forcing a trap on Steph Curry to take 5 seconds off the clock. For Grizzlies having a foul to give, forcing another 5 seconds off the clock. By the time the clock was over, it was it went from 17 seconds to about 5 seconds in a blink, with a 3-point game it was a 3-point game for the Grizzlies to deal with. And what will be the story in this one, really, it was their inability to get a inbounds playoff with 5 seconds to play, being able to advance the ball to half court, and the Memphis Grizzlies could not inbound the ball. A 5-second violation on them forced the game to a close, and that was it. That's the only way I can describe this game. It was just a dominant defensive performance, a coaching performance from the Grizzlies, or from the Warriors. It just really felt like Steve Kerr implemented his experience. He just utilized his experience more than anything in this game. But yeah, another factor in this game that I really want to drive home was playoff Jimmy. Jimmy Butler is really the biggest reason the Golden State Warriors brought Jimmy Butler in was for these moments when it really matters. How much his play really mattered down the stretch. Not only in this one, but they brought him in for the playoffs. We know how important. We know his reputation come playoff time with the playoff Jimmy title, but we hadn't seen it in the last 2 years. We didn't see it last year in 2024 with his injury, and the last time we saw him was in 2023 when he brought the 8-seeded Miami Heat to the NBA Finals. That was the last time we saw playoff Jimmy, and the Warriors really took a gamble. With a couple of years left on Steph Curry's left in Steph Curry's career, he's hinted at it before, saying he's just getting old. He just doesn't have that many games left, that many seasons left in him. And they took a chance. They originally wanted Kevin Durant before their trade deadline. Couldn't finish that deal. Switch gears to Jimmy Butler, and this is where they wanted that deal to pay dividends. Not in the regular season when they went on a 23-8 finish, went on a 23-8 run to finish the season. Not when they went from 25-26 to 48-34 to close out from February 25th to now. This is last night was the moment they brought Jimmy Butler in for, and he did not underwhelm, finishing with 38 points, driving this offense from honestly the whole game. The only reason you would say not was because Steph Curry really just turned it on in the fourth quarter in classic Steph Curry fashion, the way he can get hot from 3-point range. He scored 15 points in the fourth quarter, finishing with 37. But to start the fourth quarter, it was, I believe, Jimmy Butler had 33 points with Steph Curry sitting at about 22 or 25. It was not close. Jimmy Butler was driving this team from the first half in the third quarter, honestly, as well as the fourth quarter, hitting timely shots when Memphis and Golden State were just going back and forth, throwing haymakers at each other. The NBA playoffs are back, and this game was our first-hand experience in 2025 for the NBA playoffs. This felt like a classic playoff game, with especially in the fourth quarter, with both teams going at it to face the Houston Rockets in the first round. But that's neither here nor there. Anthony, I see you left another comment in the chat here. Seems like the past 30 years, the West has been a lot deeper in the NBA in terms of consistently. The East has always been very top-heavy. Why is that? Really, I'm not sure. I just think they have a lot more of there's just a lot more prospects. Steph Curry being in the Western Conference for the last decade plus. Obviously, they had the Spurs back in the day, the Dallas Mavericks with Dirk Nowitzki. Damian Lillard was drafted in Portland. Jokic being drafted in Denver. They just have a lot more. They just have a lot better prospect drafted wise, and homegrown talent. That's really where strength comes from in terms of teams. You see Boston with how dominant they are in the Eastern Conference. They have all their homegrown talent from Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. The Cleveland Cavaliers, I know they got Donovan Mitchell, but they drafted Darius Garland. They drafted Evan Mobley. Even the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis, they drafted Giannis. This is all it's a lot of homegrown talent, and then from that homegrown talent is what attracts star players. And that's where the star players have gone recently. It's the Western Conference with LeBron James entering there in the last 5 years. Trying to think to another move. Another example of homegrown talent is Dallas with Luka Doncic, and without him being in LA, that trade doesn't matter. But him being in Dallas is a major reason why the West is better than the East. Their ability to draft better players is the reason why. But going back to the Warriors and Grizzlies, it was just an unbelievable performance. Ja Morant finishing with 22 points in this one. And yeah, it's just gonna be interesting to see how Ja Morant and the Grizzlies will face off in their game on Friday night for the right to face the Thunder. That'll be a win and go home game, and we're gonna get into it later in the show. But what can happen if the Grizzlies possibly don't make the playoffs, possibly lose that game? Do they move on from Ja Morant? Do they bring in a new star player to build their team around? Do they blow up the team? Do they keep Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. and just bring in another star player, bring in assets for Ja Morant, and just rebuild their team? I'm not really 100% sure on that question. We're going to get into it later in the show. But yeah, this segment is dedicated to the Warriors and Grizzlies because they deserve all the credit in the world for the performance that both teams put on last night. Regardless of how the game finished, it was an unbelievable game for both teams. But I'm going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the Eastern Conference 7-8 matchup between the Orlando Magic and Atlanta Hawks. It wasn't as much of a classic as the Warriors and Grizzlies, but the Orlando Magic pleading their case, proving why they're still one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, regardless of their seed, finishing with a 7-game win streak to close out the season. They're still an unbelievable team, and we're gonna get into how they looked last night and how they will look against how they might look against the Boston Celtics. I'm gonna take a short break, and when we come back, it's gonna be Orlando Magic, Atlanta Hawks basketball.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit. A stupid myth, you choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting into this second segment here, we're going to talk a little bit about the Orlando Magic. They had a dominant fourth quarter in this game, taking out the Atlanta Hawks 120-95. A phenomenal game overall. Just unfortunately, they had to deal with being compared to the Warriors-Grizzlies last night, which honestly, on any given night, it's very difficult to compete with. So, yeah, but the Orlando Magic continuing to play very well down the stretch here, taking out Atlanta, setting up a date between them and the Boston Celtics in the first round of these NBA playoffs, and we're going to get into everything about this game. But before I move any further, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions that come in during the show. So that to ensure that your question gets read on air, ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net for your questions. This puts your question at the top of the list, so I see it. It also really helps out the show. Again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. And I've said it before, your guys' input really helps us build our shows. It helps us find out what to talk about, what you guys like to hear. Let us know all the positive, negative, anything you guys have to say. Please let us know in the comments. And if you guys have any questions or comments for me during the show to answer live, please use the gsmcpodcast.net for a link for all your questions and comments, because it really also helps out our show, and I will be able to answer it quickly and accordingly. But moving right back here into the second segment of our show, yeah, this was an unbelievable game, really, as well. The Orlando Magic did kind of dominate this game, and really I did expect, if you ask me what I expected moving into this game, I really did think Orlando would win this game. I just didn't think they would do it in the fashion that they did. They did it in pure dominant fashion, and honestly, one of the most dominant fourth quarters I've ever seen as an NBA fan, as dominant as it gets. The only one I could think of come close to this in a similar performance was if you can think back to the 2020 NBA playoffs between the Los Angeles Clippers and Denver Nuggets in that Game 7 between the Nuggets and Clippers, where LA just really collapsed and couldn't muster their offense, and Denver just, on the defensive end of the ball, being able to shoot the basketball, in general, just dominating on all aspects of the floor. That's what Orlando did to Atlanta. That's the only way I could really describe it. But, yeah, all major props to Orlando's defense in this game. They had a lot to do with how this game transpired. They held a 14-point lead. They dominated the first quarter, going up by 15. Going into the fourth quarter, or going into halftime, they held a 14-point lead. And what was really just, nobody could really do anything to them. They just dominating on both ends of the floor. And then specifically in the third quarter, it was really just Atlanta kind of climbing back into this game, cutting the lead to 2 points. Trae Young having a major part in that game, major part of that reason. Major reason as to why Atlanta came back in this game, but that was before the fourth quarter started. Going into the fourth quarter, Paolo Banchero sitting down, and it was really just the Cole Anthony Black show. Two players that have really not gotten a lot of credit this season. Two players, especially in Cole Anthony, that's been ridiculed for a fourth-year slump right now, in his fourth season, going into a little bit of a slump, being a little bit underwhelming during the regular season. Yeah, he was everything but underwhelming in this game. Finishing with 26 points in this one, scoring 15 points in the fourth quarter, or 11 points, in the fourth quarter. He had a lot to do with how this game finished. At the one point, being the lead blooming to almost 30 points, 29 points, finishing at 25 points. He had a major part as to why this team played well, hitting 4 threes down the stretch, making it a double-digit point lead, I believe 11-point lead before Paolo came back into the game. And then when Paolo came back, it was just kind of the final nail in the coffin. It sealed the deal. But yeah, Cole Anthony finishing with 26 points in this one. Anthony Black as well. He deserves credit. He deserves a lot of credit off the bench, finishing with 16 points. Hitting timely threes in that fourth quarter as well, while Paolo was sitting, while Franz Wagner was sitting. For some reason, you haven't really seen this from the Magic this season in terms of scoring. You really see them as a bully team with Mo Wagner, Franz Wagner, Paolo more of an interior player than a shooter. Kind of like a driving force. I don't really even know how to compare Paolo to anybody. Like, if you could think of a mix between a Derrick Rose and maybe a Russell Westbrook, but Paolo's taller and bigger than both of those guys, so it's just tough to compare them. The shooting of a Derrick Rose, the driving of a Russell Westbrook, the strength, the tenacity, the physicality he plays with, it's something that's very unique to Paolo, and a lot of people, the Magic are just very underrated this season. A lot of people have not watched them. I personally have not watched them a whole lot before last night, and that's why I'm saying this game was just a little bit of an eye-opener, a little bit of a shocker. Not a lot of people expected what they saw. Another major storyline in this game was Trae Young being ejected with under 5 minutes to play, down 20 points, getting a quick double technical. I'll go over it really quick. Throwing the ball at the referee. That was kind of aggressively, if you want to call it that. The referee didn't take good note to that, teeing him up pretty quickly. And then referee trying to throw the ball down the court for an inbounds play on the other side. And Trae Young, for whatever reason, getting in the middle of that, kicking it out of bounds, and for what looked like probably a delay of game technical. And that was the end of his night right there. Ejected on the spot. Back-to-back technicals, ejected on the spot. And what really looked like frustration technicals. Yeah, it just really looked like the Magic's defense just put not only Trae Young, but the entire Atlanta offense in a state of just threw him in a loop. This is the only way to call it. Just threw him for a loop. They just could not understand what was going on. They could not handle the pressure. And it just really looked like Orlando wanted it more, out-hustling them to a lot of 50-50 balls, out-hustling them to rebounds for extra opportunities, getting to the free throw line. In general, it just looked like a Magic clinic in terms of hustling and just wanting the game more. That's the only way I can really describe this game. But with this game, the Orlando Magic setting up a first-round matchup between them and the Boston Celtics. and honestly a really highly anticipated matchup now, because if the I'll tell you this right now, if the Orlando Magic can defend the way they did last night, can defend Trae Young can defend Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, and get into the passing lanes that Boston likes to use to set up their open threes, to set up the interior, with Kristaps Porzingis. If they can just put that, if they can throw a wrench in that offensive plan that Boston schemes, I think if they can really give Boston a run for their money. If what Boston's going to do in this game is they're really going to force Orlando to shoot the ball the way they did last night in a unique. It really just, I'll be honest, it felt like a unique performance from Anthony Black and Cole Anthony. And that's what Boston's going to drive home in this game. That's what they're going to force. They're going to force outside shots. They're going to force perimeter shooting. They're going to take their bets. They're going to wager bets on Orlando not being able to shoot the three the way they did last night against them. And that is what it's going to come down to in this series. That's what it's going to come down to most games, at least early on. If Orlando continues to play and shoot the ball the way they did last night, not only will Boston have to rescheme their plan, if they continue, they have a chance to win this series, really. I originally thought Boston was going to win this series in either 4 or 5 games. I know Orlando plays Boston really tough, coming from a Boston Celtics fan, but they play them very tough. They always have during the regular season for the last few years or so, since Paulo has been in the league. Orlando has given Boston problems on both ends of the floor, mainly defensively. They've given them a lot of problems. But yeah, it really comes down to their scoring from the three-point line as well as their bench play. If Cole Anthony and Anthony Black could shoot the way they did last night against the Celtics and say they catch Boston on a bad shooting night, they could blow out the Celtics the way they could dominate them the way that they dominated Atlanta last night. That's just the way Boston plays. They live and they die by that three-point shot. They have high percentage three-point shooters, but even the Steph Currys of the world can have bad nights from that end of the floor. And that's what the Celtics ride and die by. They either win in dominating fashion from that three-point shot. When that three-pointer is landing, they're borderline unstoppable to beat, unbeatable, impossible to beat. And when they can't shoot the ball very well, they look kind of anemic. That offense looks anemic. They can't really get some rhythm. They can't get any rhythm going, and it's just difficult for them to muster any offense the way they'd like. But yeah, that's the story of the game yesterday overall. And yeah, the Eastern Conference continues to get hotter and hotter every day that goes by. That's what it feels like every day that goes by. It just gets more and more interesting, and this is another scenario of that. The Eastern Conference is highly underrated this season because of the West being so heavily the star power of the Western Conference in general. But this is going to be one of the premier matchups, I think, and I'm very excited to see what goes on between these two squads. But yeah, I personally think the series is going to go 6 games. Boston wins in 6, but I'll have more of a playoff preview on Friday before this series kicks off on Saturday. I'm going to take another short break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the other 9 and 10 playing games between the Heat versus Bulls, Sacramento Kings versus Dallas Mavericks. We're going to take a look at both of those games, preview both of them, the keys to both of those games, and give my predictions of what's going to happen. I'm going to take a short break. You're watching GSMC Basketball Podcast. I'm going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at those games.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting right back into it here. We have the first elimination games of the 2025 NBA playoffs with the 9-10 seeds squaring off in the play-in tournament. Winner moves on to face either in the East, the Atlanta Hawks, or in the West, the Memphis Grizzlies. Two teams that are kind of hearing it a little bit right now. The Atlanta Hawks getting dominated by the Orlando Magic. The Memphis Grizzlies kind of collapsing last night with the 5-second violation, not being able to get a shot off, on being dominated on the defensive end of the ball, as well as Ja Morant's health being in question after he looked like he rolled his ankle last night, missing a little bit of the game, going out of the game last night. Overall, it's just going to be one team is going home tonight. And we're going to start off in the Eastern Conference with the matchup between the Miami Heat and Chicago Bulls. Funny enough, about 8 days ago, actually, April 8th, these two teams squared off in Chicago, the same place where this game is going to be held tonight. The Bulls ended up winning this game, 119-111, winning that game, 119-111, and yeah, it was in dominating fashion, similar to, I honestly think this one's going to be similar to that. I know the duo of Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero will be out and about. I know Eric Spoelstra will scheme his team to have some success. It just feels like this team is it's very young. After the Jimmy Butler trade, it feels like they didn't really implode the team, but Jimmy Butler had played a massive role in this offense. Really led the team, especially in the playoffs. Was the engine to what players like Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson all played. They really played around Jimmy Butler, and without that nucleus, without that focal point, being the floor general of this offense, it really feels like Tyler Hero's tried to pick up that mantle. He's too young. He's too new to the role, and it just feels like he needs some extra help. If they can get another star player there, say Giannis Antetokounmpo wants to leave Milwaukee after this season and decides to go to Miami, that could be a good addition to this team. Or Damian Lillard if he wants to move from Milwaukee. Or say, in general, if they can get another star player in Miami, I think they would have a better chance if they could run their offense a little bit better in general. But that's the state of Miami right now. I think for the Bulls on the other side, with how hot they are, winning 7 of their last 10 on a 3-game win streak to finish the season. I think if Kobe White and Nikola Vucevic can get the offense going early, playing a little inside out pick and roll, getting Josh Giddey into the offense as well would be very nice for this Bulls team, would pay dividends. I think if they can get that offense going early, coupled with the defense that Vucevic and Kobe White and Josh Giddey play, I think they could stop this Miami offense pretty easily. And it's just going to be all about whoever captures the momentum early. I think that's what it's going to come down to. And yeah, I think the Bulls pull this one out. I won't say in dominant fashion. I don't think it's going to be a repeat of what happened last night between the Orlando Magic and Atlanta Hawks, but I could see a similar stat line, a similar final score of 119-111, the same way as these two teams played a week ago. That's my prediction of how this game is going to end up. But yeah, switching gears over to the other side in the Western Conference. Obviously, I mentioned at the top of the show, the Western Conference is a little bit deep. Anthony actually mentioned it. How the West is deeper than the East, and just overall, just more entertaining. In this matchup in the 9 and 10, we have the Dallas Mavericks and the Sacramento Kings. Right off the bat, definitely more star power in this one from both teams. We have Anthony Davis looking more like Anthony Davis every day since he's been injured, coming back from injury. He's played much better down the stretch here over the last 2 weeks, and overall, like with this team, how they play big man basketball, big man style basketball with Gafford, PJ Washington, Derek Lively, Anthony Davis, obviously. They are still missing that point guard, that quintessential floor general on this team, and that's the one thing that I think Dallas needs to address this offseason. But if they can keep their nucleus of Anthony Davis, if they can keep that four-man, big man nucleus, I think they'll be okay come next year. I just think I'm not going to get into the Nico Harrison trade of Luka Doncic. I won't get into that trade because I'll be here all day explaining why it's bad, why I don't agree with it, why I don't understand it. I'm not going to get into it, but that trade really just changed the course of this Dallas Mavericks team from going to an NBA Finals last season to most likely losing in the first round, losing in the play-in tournament, not making it out. For the Sacramento Kings on the other side, we have Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Domantas Sabonis. I just think it comes down to the star power. I really think that's what it comes down to in the playoffs. Who has the better stars and who has the deeper team and better overall team around those stars. If you have two comparable stars on either team, it comes down to the overall team around. But if you have two better stars, if you have two stars on one team that are just frankly better than the other, I just think that's what it comes down to. I think Sabonis, it's going to be a war in the interior between Sabonis and Anthony Davis. That is what I'm looking forward to most in this game, seeing how Sabonis is able to handle the big men that they have in Dallas. But I think it's going to be the outs. If Zach LaVine and DeRozan can get the shooting going from outside, if Keon Ellis can get it going, there's another play I'm blanking on right now. I apologize. But if the Kings can shoot the ball well from the outside and just get that three ball going, specifically the perimeter shooting going early on, I really think this game will go decisively because Dallas cannot go shot for shot they cannot play in a shootout style basketball. They will not play well. They will not be able to match up with that offensive style, and they'll struggle all night long. That's my prediction. I just think they won't be able to handle a shootout style. But Sacramento struggles to shoot early on. If they struggle to get that three ball going, the perimeter shooting going, if Sabonis gets locked up on the inside, and if they can really make this game into a dogfight, I like Dallas's chances in a dogfight. I think Sacramento has finesse, can shoot the ball well when they can get that shot going. It's just going to be finesse and overall shooting versus dogfight, interior play, gritty team in the Dallas Mavericks. That's the state. That's the state of this one, and yeah, that's my two predictions. I think there's really no mix or match. Either Dallas imposes its will in the interior, makes this game a dogfight, plays scrappy, gritty, and takes this one, or Sacramento just shoots the lights out, or shoots in general. If they can get their shot going in the fourth quarter, they'll pull away in the fourth quarter. If they get it going early on, they'll pull away early on. That's just the state of this game in general. But the winner of this game gets the right to face Memphis on Friday night, and honestly, whoever faces Memphis, I think that'll be a massive game. Either it's Sacramento or Dallas. I think Dallas could be more interesting because Dallas has a similar style to Memphis in terms of gritty basketball in the interior, playing strong defense. But I think Memphis beats whoever plays those two teams. I still think Memphis will go on to face Oklahoma City in the first round, and that will be that in the Western Conference. That's my prediction. But I'm going to take another short break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at we're going to preview another rivalry. Obviously, the Golden State Warriors winning last night, setting up a date between them and the Houston Rockets, a matchup that we haven't seen since the 2018 NBA playoffs in the NBA Western Conference Finals between these two teams. Two teams that have a lot of history. Steph Curry obviously was there in 2015 to 2018 in the James Harden days. Steve Kerr was there. Draymond Green, they have a lot of history with them. Ime Udoka now is the head coach of the Houston Rockets. He'll have a lot to say, especially after Steph Curry took him and the Boston Celtics out in the 2022 NBA Finals. He'll be ready to go. He'll have a new scheme against Steph Curry, trying to shut him down. New assets to play defense, new defensive assets with Amen Thompson, Dillon Brooks to throw at Steph Curry. It's going to be an unbelievable series. So I'm going to preview that. But yeah, I'm going to take a short break, and we're going to look at Warriors-Rockets first-round NBA playoff series.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting into our next topic here, we have the Golden State Warriors facing off against the Houston Rockets in the first round of this year's NBA playoffs. That matchup set in stone last night with the Warriors' win over the Memphis Grizzlies in the play-in tournament. And this will be one of the... I didn't talk about it earlier this week because... honestly, I didn't want to get ahead of myself with how close this game could be. I thought it was a 50-50 toss-up in this play-in game, so I didn't talk about it, but this is one of the predictions I had and one of the more interesting matchups I've been looking forward to these playoffs. Obviously, we remember the days between 2015 and 2018 in the James Harden days, James Harden versus Steph Curry, one of the more anticipated matchups in the Western Conference. During those days, obviously Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Steve Kerr still a part of the Golden State Warriors today. Unfortunately, there's none of those old Houston Rockets in Houston anymore, but this is a new Houston Rockets team, a revamped Houston Rockets team that will still be out to make a name for themselves. A very young, scrappy team. The only point of history between these two teams that'll be interesting to watch will be Ime Udoka returning to face Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. The first time seeing them in the playoffs since 2022 in the NBA Finals when Ime Udoka was part of the Boston Celtics staff. This is going to be one of the premier matchups of the Western Conference. I really do think so. Ime Udoka will have new schemes ready to go, throwing defensive phenom Amen Thompson, one of the best young perimeter defenders, can guard the 1 through 5. He'll be ready to guard Steph Curry, guard Draymond Green, guard Jimmy Butler. Also, Dillon Brooks on this team will play a big role on the defensive end of the ball. It's just gonna be interesting to see how this all plays out. The Houston Rockets owning the season series over the Golden State Warriors 3-1. But these two teams have only played one time since Jimmy Butler has been with the Golden State Warriors since the trade deadline, where Houston ended up winning the series or winning that game 106-96 about a month ago. But yeah, this is going to be one of the best matchups in the Western Conference. We've been waiting for it for a long time. With the Houston Rockets getting the 2 seed, I didn't really expect the Warriors to fall to the play-in tournament, so I didn't think it was going to really happen. I thought we were going to see Timberwolves, Rockets, or Grizzlies, Rockets, something along those lines. But yeah, we're seeing it. We're here now, and I personally, as a basketball fan, I'm so excited to see what's going to happen, what's going to transpire in this series, because this is 2 teams that do not like each other. 2 teams. Ime Udoka will push the narrative. He will push his narrative. We remember him chirping at Steph Curry after that game a month ago in the post game as they walk off the floor. There's a video of Steph Curry and Ime Udoka just going back and forth in a heated argument. Ime Udoka remembers what he did to the Boston Celtics in 2022. And he wants his revenge. He will be out for it. And this Houston Rockets youngest team will have their hands full, especially with a playoff Jimmy Butler, especially with how good Steph Curry looked last night, and specifically how good the Golden State defense looked last night. The Warriors defense is one of the most underrated pieces of this team. We all know the offensive prowess of Steph Curry. We know playoff Jimmy loves to turn it up in the playoffs. We saw it last night. But this defense led by Draymond Green, they put a straitjacket on the Memphis Grizzlies in the first half last night in a way I haven't really seen anybody put a team in. That was a defensive masterclass in the first half, and if they bring that same energy as they did, this team is going to be borderline impossible to beat. They look very similar to that 2022 Warriors team that took out the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals, and that just continues to add pressure to this series, continues to bring anticipation to why this series is going to be so just back and forth. 2 heavily defensive teams, a young offensive team going up against 2 veterans, 2 NBA, one of them an NBA champion, another one willing their teams to 2 NBA finals, 2 NBA finals that they had no business, nobody really picked them to make, both in 2020 and 2023. Yeah, the Rockets will have their hands full in this one, but Ime Udoka will have his team ready to go, and it's just going to be unbelievable back and forth. I think the Warriors win this series in 7 games. I only say 7 games just because I think the experience that the Warriors have is going to be the deciding factor. Another factor I want to look at in this game is going to be Alperen Sengun. How will the Warriors scheme up to defend Sengun, scheme up to face Steven Adams in the first round? That 2-headed monster is a very highly underrated one in Houston right now. And the Warriors, we all know, are not one of the tallest, biggest teams. There are a lot of guards, a lot of small forwards. They play a lot of small ball outside of Draymond Green and Kevon Looney. Even Draymond Green isn't the tallest player. But yeah, we saw Zach Edey have his way with him on the offensive glass, on the defensive glass, getting 17 rebounds on the Warriors last night. That was just Zach Edey. What is Alperen Sengun, a budding rising star in this league, one of the better younger talents in this league? How is he going to be able to handle them? So I don't really know. I think we're in for one of the best series. I've said it time and time again in this segment. I think we're just in for one of the best series in the Western Conference. This is one of the best series, and we have one of the best NBA playoffs, one of the best Western Conference playoffs lined up. One of the best Western Conference playoffs we've seen in years lined up for the NBA fans to watch and enjoy every single game of these playoffs, and I cannot wait. I personally cannot wait to watch every single game. If every game is going to be in the Western Conference is going to be just like that Grizzlies-Warriors matchup from last night, sign me up right now, because I cannot wait to watch more NBA playoffs basketball. I'm going to take another short break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the Memphis Grizzlies. Ja Morant, obviously, he's in a win-or-go-home playoff matchup on Friday night for the right to play the Oklahoma City Thunder in the first round. we're going to take a look at what could really happen for this team if the Memphis Grizzlies lose that game. What can happen to Ja Morant? Will Ja Morant be traded? Will the Grizzlies move on? Will they blow up the team? We're going to take a look at everything, all the scenarios that could be coming up next for the Memphis Grizzlies. We're going to take a look at everything about that, and we're going to take a look at the Memphis Grizzlies this offseason, say everything goes wrong for them. We're going to take a look at that. We're going to talk Memphis Grizzlies basketball after a short break. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting right back into it here, we have we're going to take a look at the Memphis Grizzlies. They fell to the Golden State Warriors in the play-in tournament. I've said it time and time again on this show, but Ja Morant getting injured in this game, late in the game, falling in the third quarter, coming back eventually in the fourth quarter. Really willing this team, continuing to produce on the offensive end, trying to will this team to a comeback victory. Honestly, if the Grizzlies had come back in this game, the storyline would not be anything close to what it is right now. It would just continue to be more. It would just been more and more interesting. It would have been more of an instant classic, if anything. It probably would have been game of the year, say, if the Grizzlies had come back and won. But that's neither here nor there. This is about what can happen if the Grizzlies lose on Friday night. In the 8-9 matchup, the right to face the Oklahoma City Thunder in the first round. They will face the losers of the 9-10 between the Sacramento Kings and Dallas Mavericks. And there have already been rumors of this for the last few years. And there have been rumors that Ja Morant in the front office have not had a good relationship with how he's had issues off the court, being suspended indefinitely multiple times now. This is the first time we've seen Ja Morant really on the court in the playoffs since 2022, really, when they fell to 2023 actually, when they fell to the Los Angeles Lakers in those playoffs. This is the first time we've really seen him back with the Grizzlies in the playoffs. And if he loses if he loses on Friday night, if he is not able to will this team to the first round playoff series against the Oklahoma City Thunder, I really do think the Grizzlies move on from him, especially with the play of Desmond Bane down the stretch yesterday. Another play I'm not really loving with how he's been growing on this team, especially this year. He's been in a little bit of a slump, similar to how I described Cole Anthony earlier in the show. It's Jaren Jackson Jr., a player that we've known. He's very well known for his defense, very well known for his interior play, being able to grab rebounds, being able to produce on the defensive end of the ball, play on the offensive glass very well. He had a couple costly turnovers in this game yesterday that really did not set up the Memphis Grizzlies on the right track to win, did not play. He wasn't a major reason why they lost, I would say, but do not count him out in a possible package with Ja Morant for some trade pieces for another star player to couple with Desmond Bane. Say possibly the Phoenix Suns are interested in trading Kevin Durant. Would the Memphis Grizzlies be interested in that? Bringing Kevin Durant to couple with Desmond Bane? There is a world where the Memphis Grizzlies have the assets to trade Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. if they so please for Kevin Durant. I don't think that's what they would want to do, especially for a young talent that those two guys have. They would want probably young talent compensation, not somebody like a Kevin Durant that has at least a maximum a couple of years left in him before he retires, as he's approaching the age of 40 years old. But I don't really know. I think it all depends on how Ja Morant plays in this game on Friday night. He is hobbled. He is a little bit injured. But there were rumors that the reason Taylor Jenkins was fired 3 weeks ago was because he was interested in trading Ja Morant before the trade deadline, interested in trading Ja Morant after the season. The front office was not liking it. Ja Morant probably was not liking it, voiced his opinions to the front office. And if that's true, of course, I don't know if that's true. I'm speculating here. It's alleged. Allegedly, Taylor Jenkins wanted to trade Ja Morant. But if that was the case, then if that was the case and Ja Morant loses on Friday night, I think they move on from him. I really do think so. It's unfortunate for a player like Ja Morant that really hasn't, I don't want to say hasn't deserved it, because he did have 2 indefinite suspensions last season, and I believe he's had one in the last 2 seasons, one of them that kept him out of the playoffs, as well as a couple major injuries that he's had. So he just has a history. He just has an injury of off-the-court issues, health issues. For a superstar talent, it's difficult to build around a superstar player when you can't guarantee both the player's health and that the player will be there, especially in these moments in the playoffs. So it's just unfortunate. As a fan of Ja Morant, I've always loved him. I don't think his off-the-court issues should be a reason why he does not have a job in the league, why he's not in the league. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that his off-the-court issues did not play a factor if he's on this team or not. It has not played a factor in speculation as to why he might get traded in the offseason. But yeah, another last thing I want to point out, I think the Grizzlies' inability to get the ball to get an inbounds play last night, to get that 5-second violation last night, I think has played crucial into this narrative as to why if Ja Morant is the type of guy to lead this team. Why I say that? Because in those clutch moments, you want the ball you want a reliable player. You see the same way that the Warriors were feeding Steph Curry to close the game. He was making off the ball movements to get himself open, to get the ball in his hands, because he's a trusted guy. He can shoot the ball if he needs. He won't turn the ball over, etc. You just want a reliable player, a reliable star player in closing moments, especially in the playoffs. Not Jared Jackson. Ja Morant. Has Ja Morant been that guy? And was that 5-second violation and kind of an indictment against his name that he can't do it, that he can't get himself open, that he's not a reliable scorer? Because in a way, even as an NBA fan watching the game, I didn't think the ball was going to go into Ja Morant's hands. I thought it was going to Desmond Bane with how he's been shooting all night, especially down by 3 points. Get the ball into your sharpshooter's hands. In Desmond Bane. That's why I think, in a way, they're going to keep Desmond Bane. I think Desmond Bane is the most valuable piece on this team with how consistent he's been over the last few years, over the last 3 seasons being in the NBA. With how he's consistently proven to be not only a scorer, a reliable player on the court at all times, playing 70-plus games in almost every season he's been in the league. So I really think I just really think I just don't know if Ja Morant's going to be on this team come next season if they lose on Friday night. I'm not going to say he's not. I'm not going to say he will. But I think there was a legitimate argument that he will not be. And I'm going to leave it on this note. I feel this feels very similar to how Sacramento was handling the De'Aaron Fox situation. De'Aaron Fox may have wanted out from Sacramento, but there's a lot of quiet rumors that you see every now and again, a little bit of noise from the locker room that De'Aaron Fox was not enjoying his time in Sacramento. This feels very similar to that before the trade. Not that Ja Morant does not love Memphis. I think he does. I think he fits very well in Memphis with the environment, with the players, with his team, with the culture in general. I think he fits very well with the gritty nature, gritty, tenacious, defensive, aggressive nature that he has. Aggressive to attack the paint, attack the basket, get into the lane. A Skywalker, being able to dunk, a highlight reel player. He just fits the mold. He's he's incredible basketball talent. I'm not saying he's not. It just feels like in Memphis, he does not have the right fit right now to lead that team to the promised land, to lead that team to a possible NBA championship. It just doesn't feel like he has the skill set, and it doesn't feel like the GM in a way has put him in a position to win, a position to get the right guys around him and to make a run at an NBA championship. But that's my verdict on the Memphis Grizzlies. It was an unbelievable first day of the NBA playoffs, NBA play-in tournament kicking off last night. We have another slate of games tonight. I mentioned earlier, Heat Bulls to start off the night at 7 o'clock. Kings Mavericks at 10 o'clock. The two matchups that'll be highly anticipated. Every game of this playoffs are going to be incredibly entertaining to watch, whether on the East, especially on the West. The East a little bit less, but especially in the Western Conference, with how star-studded every team looks 1-8. But yeah, thank you as always for tuning into the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference, more than you think. As I said earlier in the show, your input, your critique really helps us find out what to improve, what you guys want to hear. Really, in general, you guys are a major part in the show. What you guys want to hear, what we can improve upon. In general, we appreciate all your feedback that you give us. So please leave a review in general, because it does make all the difference into how we build our shows and how we can improve to bring you guys better and better content every single day. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again. It was an unbelievable first day of the NBA playoffs. Hopefully, we have many more to come over the next couple months as these NBA playoffs unfold, because they will, and they're coming. These games are going to continue to come, and we're going to continue to cover them, continue to watch them. Appreciate you guys as always. This is Mehrob Fatemi, the host of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, signing off. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your days. Bye-bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.